Hey YouTube, Kira Qualia here, bringing you all my Cardfight Vanguard Overdress Prison Brandt deck profile for June 2021. With the release of Genesis for the 5 Greats, we were given a start deck with the new support for one of the prison decks. This is a deck for Brandt that focuses on basically arresting your opponent's cards in their prison world set card, and then making it so your opponent has to pay specific costs to get that card back onto their field, basically taking away a lot of the resources and benefiting on having more and more cards in your prison zone in the deck. It's a really interesting deck with a whole new concept for Cardfight Vanguard. So let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So we'll go ahead and start off with the Ride deck. For our starter, we're going with the Aurora Battle Princess Ruby Red. Just good for all of the setup because our next grade 1 is Aurora Battle Princess Knight Blue. When this unit is placed on Vanguard Circle, search your deck for up to 1 prison card, reveal it, put it into your hand, and shuffle your deck. So with that prison search, you basically have the go-to to go to our main prison card in the deck, which is Galaxy Central Prison. Galactolus, having more setup for this card, is the basic go-to setup for the deck in total, having this world set order on the field being a set order prison for the play of then going into our next card, which is Aurora Battle Princess Rosette Pink. When this unit is placed on Vanguard, your opponent chooses a card from their hand and imprisons it in your prison. So being able to take away a card from their hand is all the better, just for the whole Ride deck. You're basically playing into what the setup needs to be with this deck, and also with this option having more and more cards for that setup is a big plus altogether, relying on all of these cards for the play, with our main go-to grade 3 being our Aurora Battle Princess Seraph Snow, and having a Vanguard and Rearguard ability with this card being our main go-to Persona Blast makes it all the better to basically go with the Imprison, because you can call it to rear and still have additional prison setup for your opponent's rear guards. And now, before we move on to the grade 3s, we're going to start off with the order card, since it's a big part of the playstyle of the whole deck altogether. And that is Galaxy Central Prison Galactolus. You only really need one of this card because before anything else, you will search it with your ride target when placed, searching your deck for up to a prison. So before you even take any damage, you'll be able to add this card to your hand. Or even, before your opponent even takes a turn, you'll have the prison card ready to go for that setup. With this card, and to activate it, you activate set order is played on your order zone. You rest one of your units to play this card. When this unit is put into the order zone, you soul charge 3. So this card helps to build up a good amount of the soul you'll use for a bunch of your other cards. And from the order zone, your opponent can normal call a rear guard. They can perform the following. They can soul blast 1. If they do, choose one of their imprisoned cards, call it to rear, or they can counter blast 1. If they do, choose 2 of their imprisoned cards and call them to rear. So they basically have to pay resource to get their cards out of the prison Galactolus on the field, wasting away their own resources so they can basically just play Vanguard normally. But like I said, you only need one. There's not really a way to destroy this card, so once you have the prison set up, you're good to go for all of your other plays in the deck. Moving on now to the grade 3s, we are running 3 Aurora Battle Princess Seraph Snow, additionally with the one from the Ride deck. On Vanguard Circle, during your turn, if 1 or more of your opponent's cards is imprisoned in your prison, this unit gets plus 10,000 power. If 3 or more are imprisoned, it gets drive plus 1. So we have a triple drive Brandt unit, so very, very strong for that setup, since there's just so many different cards in this deck that help to set up with the prison world set card. And also on Vanguard or rear, once per turn, you can counter blast 1, choose 2 of your opponent's rear guards, and imprison them in your prison. So this card alone can get 2 cards set up in the prison, so you just need 1 additional card to have the 3 to give this card the power and the drive plus 1 against your opponent. With the backup grade 3 being 4 Grand Road Fair Tiger. Once per turn on rear, soul blast 1, this unit gets plus 2,000 till end of turn, and choose one of your opponent's front row rear guards and imprison it in your prison. So this card takes care of the front row rear guards, while you can rely on your Seraph Snow to imprison any of the other cards, including back row. But this card's good just because it also just needs a soul blast, doesn't take up a counter blast. You use plenty of soul buildup with your Galaxy Central Prison, soul charging 3 with initially setting this card up. So with this, you just have a easy way to set up more prison cards on the field using this card for the initial play altogether. And that is it for the grade 3s. Moving on to the grade 2s. One of my favorite art-wise alone is is Aurora Battle Princess Aggro Rouge on Vanguard, or also the Guard Circle. If 2 or more of your opponent's cards are imprisoned in your prison, this unit gets plus 5,000 power and shield plus 10,000. So the fact that it gets shield plus 10,000 is a great defense tactic with this card, but also when placed on your rear guard, you can Soul Blast 1, choose one of your opponent's front row rear guards, and imprison it in your prison. So with this, you have 2 cards so far that we've gone over that can just imprison cards that much easier, but this card also relies on a defense or offense tactic depending on if 2 or more cards are in your opponent's zone in prison. Being able to hit 1,500 number means they can hit this card against your opponent's Vanguard alone, being a 13k base Vanguard, or even just an extra boost power you may receive with some of your other triggers in the deck also. For more additional prison setup, I also run 4 Security Patroller. When this unit is placed on rear, Soul Blast 1, choose one of your opponent's rear guards and imprison it in your prison. So once again, going off of the Soul Charge 3, you'll have plenty of resources to use with this grade 2. So just an additional card for the imprison means you want to make sure you rely on Seraph Snow for the easy setup of just basically having the additional power and drive plus 1 by having 3 or more cards. And all the cards we've gone over so far all have a way to imprison an opponent's cards. So as long as you open up a couple of these cards, you'll be able to do that just as much. And that is it for the grade 2s. We'll now move on to the grade 1s. One of the best one for resource setup, again, is our Hyperspeed Robo Shovel Stud. On rear guard, once per turn, you counter blast 1, Soul Blast 1, choose one of your opponent's rear guards, imprison it in your prison. And then if there are 3 or more cards in your prison zone, you can draw a card. So this card provides draw power along with the additional setup. You already will most of the time have it set up for the 3, since you'll have Seraph Snow on the field. It's a counter blast and a Soul Blast, so remember that can be pretty heavy on the resource take up, but you can still rely on it for draw power. Then you could just basically draw into another Shovel Stud. And it's a once per turn. It's not a one place. So even if you just keep this card on the field, come next turn, if you have the resources, you can use it again and imprison another card also. But to help with some of the resources as well, including the Soul and Counter Charge, I am running 4 Detonation Mutant Bauble Mine. At the end of the battle, this unit boosted. If your order zone has a set order, put this unit into your zone and into your soul, not your zone, and Counter Charge 1. So Soul Build Up and Counter Charge. This is a definite 4 of in the deck just for that alone, because it can basically help with any of our other engines, whether it be Soul Blasting or Counter Blasting for Bauble Mine. And the fact that we're going to have that set order set up turn 1, early game can just give you more and more cards for your resources, which we're basically going back and forth with a lot of these cards, asking for a lot of resources to be used, but also using them a lot for our setup altogether. And for the Sentinel, we are running 4 of the Violate Dragon, just the best Sentinel, I would say, just because of the fact, and like I said, going over all of these videos with the same play, so everyone understands the newest Sentinel. If you have 2 of the Sentinel in your hand, when you guard with the first one, it specifies if your hand has 2 or more cards in your hand, choose a card from your hand, discard it, so you don't have to pay the cost if the only other card in your hand is 1 more card. So if it's another Sentinel, you can use that 1 card to guard, and then have the final Sentinel to at least guarantee block 2 of your opponent's attacks, which definitely come in handy if they get an over trigger, if you want to block the Vanguard attack, or if they then give the power to the rear guard, and that rear guard has an additional critical as well, being able to block it with your second Sentinel also. And then for the last of the grade 1, just a little more defensive power, I'm running 2 Autonomic Caution, with this one being Autonomic, not, I can say words properly, Caution. On rear or guard circle, if one of your opponent's cards is imprisoned in your prison, this unit gets plus 2,000 power and also plus 5,000 shield. So the shield alone, a 10k shield can definitely come in handy. They've adjusted all these shield numbers for overdress format, but the 10,000 is still great for just blocking one of your opponent's attacks, and your 13k Vanguard hitting 23k shield can block a good number of either rear guard attacks or even make it a 2 to pass for your opponent's Vanguard, depending on the other shields you play down. And that is it for the grade 1s. For the trigger lineup, I decided to go with the 7 criticals. So 4 Aurora Battle Princess Le Rouge Yellow, and also 3 Cardinal Draco as just the additional criticals, since they're the only ones we have for Brandt. I thought of running fronts, and actually I made a mistake. We're running the 4 because I decided to change the number for the draw trigger. If you want to run front triggers, you can always take out the next trigger lineup for some additional fronts, but I really do like the critical pressure that this deck can provide, taking away your opponent's intercepts, then just having that pressure alone with your Seraph Snow having triple drive, you can hit a good number of criticals against your opponent and then have this scary pressure to use. I also run the 3 additional draw trigger because just more hand consistency, and almost every card in this deck can lead to an imprisonment, so being able to have this card for drawing into them, very, very useful. With the last being the 4 heal trigger, just standard. I want to go with the Truce Green because I think it's the most fitting card, obviously, for the prison deck. And our over trigger is our Star Dragon Deity of Infinitude, Eldo Breath, with this card having the 100 million, but also additional effect of doubling the power and critical of all your front row units until end of turn. So if you get additional criticals and you split them up to your rear guards with your Seraph Snow, you can double all of these cards with your over trigger alone. Very, very scary when this card is revealed, because then your opponent will be dealing with basically double the power of all your front row units. So the additional effect along with the 100 million is just that much more scary to go up against. And then, like I said before, for those of you that aren't familiar with the prison setup, with the World Order set in this game where the imaginary gifts used to be, if you have your Vanguard set up, and let's say you have your rear guard circles as well occupied. So if you have your front row rear guards and your Vanguard circle, which I will also basically zoom out just to give a little more space to show everything. You have your setup here and your Vanguard circle, front row rear guards. You will then activate your prison setup, which will go over here up in the top corner for that setup. And then when you activate this card, don't forget you will just soul charge 3, giving you plenty of build up with this card for all the other additional soul blasting cards. And when a card is prisoned, it'll go into your aura zone. You can basically place it under your prison zone there, having the card there until your opponent can basically free it from the prison and then back onto their field with the use of a counterblast or a soul blast. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Definitely having fun, like I said before, with all of the different overdressed decks. And with this one, I think we've covered most of Brandt until the next booster pack as well. So until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. And Kira Qualia out.